So hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is another special guest interview for my Halloween special that we've been doing here on YouTube for the last few weeks. Today's guest, lads, I'm so excited I could like cry. Okay, anybody that knows me, you know I love horror. I love horror, I love all things horror, but I particularly love horror TV shows because I want to get immersed. I want to go get lost in the lore of the thing. Bly Manor it touched my soul, ripped it out a little bit and then tucked it back in, you know what I mean? Today's guest is the absolutely beautiful Tahirah Sharif, who plays Rebecca Jessel from The Haunting of Bly Manor. And like always, I always want to start by just saying a massive thank you to Tahirah for sitting and talking and then reminiscing. And I always say it in the intros of these videos, time is precious and people have very busy lives and careers and whatnot, so I am always so appreciative when somebody will be graceful enough with their time to just sit down and talk about, you know, the projects that they were part of, the behind the scenes, give us a little bit of insight into the actor's mind, because like I've been obsessed with TV and film since I was like a child. Since I was a wee little thing. I mean, I was 7 or 8 watching the same 4 films on loop because they were my comfort movies, even though I didn't have a term for it back then. But as I got older, I've really grown to like have a serious love and obsession with the behind the scenes of projects. And it gets to the point that even as I'm watching a project, I'm like, oh my god, I have got to know how this was done. I have got to know what was the thought process. How did this person like find this character? So myself and Tahirah, we talk all things Bly Manor, all things Rebecca Jessel, all things about, you know, her career, how she got her start. So yeah, I'm so excited to be sharing this with you guys today, and I hope you enjoy it. Here is my chat with Tahirah. Thank you so much for agreeing to sit down and talk. I really appreciate it.
No worries. That's great. No, my pleasure.
Well, before we get into talking all things Bly, which I cannot wait, I'd love to go back and get a feel for where this all started for you, where you realized that you could make acting like a viable profession.
I mean, I still doubt myself even now. Um, do you know what? I don't think it really dawned on me that I could make it a viable profession until I actually booked my first paid job. I think before that, it was something that I really just enjoyed, and I enjoyed learning, and just like playing different characters, going to the theatre, watching watching movies. But genuinely, it wasn't until I booked my first professional job that I thought, oh, okay, I can make some money from this, and it can actually be a career. And I think it was the same for probably my kind of family around me until I was probably on the TV. I don't think they'd quite realised either that, you know, it could be kind of a quite successful profession.
I mean, because it is an unusual job. Do you know what I mean? So I imagine like family members would be like, okay, but maybe a backup,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah, definitely. Like, I think my sister was actually like, yeah, you'll be amazing, and you should just go for it and da da da. And I think, like most of my family were really supportive, but I think they were kind of like, really, I don't know if you're going to make any money from this, and you might be broke for a while. And all of those things were true for a certain amount of time. And then you just have to, you build up your CV, and hopefully, like, the work continues to get better and better.
Mm. And in terms then of particularly what you do, TV is a very different world to film, and I imagine for you it's a lot more taxing because you have to live in the role for a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like trying to find that character and trying to get in and stay in them, do you have any particular method that you do, or
A lot of my screen roles, especially the more significant ones, I've always the first thing I do is just write down a backstory of the character. So it's either stuff that's factual, that's actually in the script, if her age is mentioned, if she, I don't know, is in a relationship, or so on and so forth. And then all the other gaps I just fill in myself. And like the audience are probably never going to know any of that stuff, but it just allows you to make much more informed choices when you're playing that character. If you just know exactly, I don't know, like little things like the exact day they were born and what horoscope they are, or like
yeah.
where they were school, what they were like as a kid. It kind of makes you, or allows you to really give the character some kind of depth. And then the second thing I do is I always make a playlist. So I kind of make a playlist of songs that are a mix of what I think the character would listen to. And then just for me, because what I'll tend to do is put on the playlist, songs when I'm during filming, if there's particularly like emotionally charged scenes, I just want to be in my own head and get into a certain emotional space, I'll put that playlist on. And it just helps you to connect with the character. I think especially if it's like Haunting of Bly Manor was set in the 80s. I think another project of mine, A Town Called Malice, was set in the 80s. And so it just gives you that anchor, I guess, to hold on to, because I wasn't like 30 years old in the 80s. So, to allow you to get into that space of that time, it's really helpful.
It's funny that you mentioned playlists because I'm the same. If I have to learn anything or like go over anything, I gravitate to music just because it's like a comfort thing. But
Mm,
I read somewhere that it helps you. It's like the fastest way to access memories is to tie something to a song.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's for sure. Because I think they said it's music and smells.
Yeah.
Really, they evoke that memory really quickly. And I think just emotionally, it is such an easy. I would say easy actually. I'd say it's quite an efficient, quick way to kind of put yourself, for me anyway, in a certain emotional space should you need to.
And then the opposite then, coming out the other end of a role. Do you find it hard to try and detangle and get yourself out of it, or can you snap out quick?
Do you mean like day by day or at the end of a project?
The end of a project, say. Yeah,
Mm.
the end.
That's a really great question actually. Do you know what? I think some are easier than others. Um, I think Bly Manor stuck with me. I think you know what it depends on sometimes is how long it takes to film. Some TV shows I've done, I might be filming for, I don't know, 2 months, let's say, 2.5 months. Others like Bly Manor and others I've done are like 6 months. That's a long time to spend playing another character and doing a lot of um, research or delving into the backstory and wearing different clothing. Your hair is and your makeup is different to what you would how you would usually do it. So I think say with Bly Manor it was definitely Rebecca definitely stayed with me for a while. And I think because that was a character that was so different to how I am in real life, like obviously like every character they're going to have elements of me, right?
Mm.
um but just in general, because it was a different time, her demeanor was different. The way like she sat, all the way I made her sit was different because I was like, no, she's quite poised and graceful and feminine and professional, and I don't think I'm those things. So I really wanted to make I slouch a lot, and so on, and the way she dressed was I loved it. It was so elegant,
Yeah.
um, and I remember afterwards thinking, I want to dress more like that. So I think coming out of a character at the end of a project, yeah, it depends on so many different things. How much you actually really enjoyed playing that character, what you had to go through emotionally to tell the story. It's yeah, so many different things, but some characters stay with you a lot longer than others in it. And I do find it difficult sometimes to let go of them fully,
Mm.
um because you kind of they're like it's such a weird thing. I don't want to sound like corny or cliche, but you are literally creating character from scratch, really. And it's this person now that like a character that lives on screen really forever,
Mm.
and and hopefully resonates with so many people that it is, yeah, I think it's difficult to let them go fully. And I think as actors, I don't know if you ever really do, I'll be honest with you, especially when you care about them.
Yeah, I imagine they would kind of live in you a bit. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, you create them. You know what I mean? You make this whole person. Do you find that did you sometimes bleed into each other? So you might get a role and you'll attack it from a certain point of view, but then you'd be like, there's a bit of Rebecca in this. Like, no.
Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, no, definitely. I think it didn't. I'm trying to think if it happened. It didn't happen so much after Bly Manor, and probably just because of the timing, because it came out in, I think it was lockdown, and so I think there wasn't, like in terms of working, there wasn't something that came immediately after purely because of what was going on in the world. But certainly, like with my other roles, I think it's when you're coming out of a role that you've been shooting for 6 months, and this, it's literally happened, and I had like 3 weeks or something downtime, and then was straight into another job. There's no way that you can't. There's no way. I think it's physically impossible for that character not to be inhabiting the new character, because I just couldn't help it. I couldn't help it, but I think it worked.
That's crazy. It's
Yeah,
such small periods in between.
yeah. Sometimes it just happens. I mean, look, as actors, there might be, I don't know, 3 months or 6 months of not doing it. Not doing anything after the last job, or there might be a couple of days or weeks. It's just how it shakes out, and I think that just so happened to be, how the schedules worked out. It had to be such a short amount of downtime before the next one, and that was so tiring.
I can't imagine. I can
Yeah,
barely keep track of myself. Oh my God, trying to separate those characters, I wouldn't be able to.
yeah.
But with Bly, then I know when I first started, like you said, it was lockdown. I think it was 2020. Actually, I think the 4 year anniversary just passed recently. I saw it on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It did, yeah.
like you get the script, and was there like a rough overview for you, or was it like the first episode or a background of your character kind of deal? What were your impressions?
Do you mean like when I auditioned for it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would have got, I don't even think I got a full episode. I think I just got a couple of Rebecca's scenes.
Mm.
And then an overview of her character. But I think because Hill House had come out, I think the year before, obviously I knew what kind of a world I was, and I was such a fan anyway. I knew what type of world I was inhabiting, so I knew the tone and like the vibe of, I think, what they wanted. But I just remember thinking, I really want this. Because I really wanted to work with Mike Flanagan.
Yeah.
And just like rated everything he'd ever done. I didn't think I was ever going to get this, ever going to get the role. But as an actor, you're like, no, I have to audition for this. There's no way I'm going to let this one go. And I spent a long time, I remember doing those audition tapes because they were quite chunky, long scenes. So my audition, I think I put it up on my Instagram at the time, but one of my audition scenes was there's a scene between Rebecca and Peter, and they are sat at the kitchen table, and she's talking to him about wanting to become a barrister. And the fact that it's quite difficult for women, because there's always like some man wanting to kind of like take advantage and and I just thought, oh, I really love this. It was like quite a long scene, and so they're really long scenes. I thought, this is really unusual for audition scenes, because they usually give you little snippets of maybe 2 minute maximum, and this scene was about, that's a good 6-7 minutes. But I remember sending them off thinking, oh, I'm really happy with that. I'm watching it back myself and I believe it. And so anytime I do that, I think that's a good audition tape. And I think I heard back pretty quickly. I heard back, I think, a week later, 2 weeks maximum, I think. And that again, that's quite unusual. And they were like, yeah, you've got the job. I couldn't believe it. I kept on calling my agent and saying, are you sure? Are you sure? Do they not want to audition me again?
And then when you're doing a scene like that, then like you said, if it was self-tape, is it just you speaking to the camera, or do you have someone as like a fill-in with you that you can bounce off?
Yeah. So obviously, ideally, you have another actor, a friend or something, reading the other person's lines. So my friend was reading Peter Quint's lines off camera.
I imagine that would be very hard though, trying to get in the zone when you have
I
so many.
mean, yeah, it is, and I think you just, as an actor, I think you just get used to it. I think that's just the. I think since, well, I mean, that was pre-COVID, so I think just before COVID, or self-tape starting to become more and more popular. Everyone is all over the world, and it's the easiest way and quickest way to do it instead of actually physically meeting somebody. And so I think as actors, we kind of got used to that style of auditioning really quickly. You just, it's not always very easy, but you do have to try and use your own instincts to, I guess, gather as much information from what you've been given as to what they're looking for and what the character's like. So, yeah, it is difficult, but it's part of our job.
With Rebecca then, Rebecca Jessel, she always stood out to me because her story, the way it's presented to us, there's so many different like chapters in her story. And
Mm.
you then trying to get a grip on her, trying to get a feel for her. How did you even begin to prepare for a role like Rebecca?
I mean, I was really scared. I think a lot of my kind of significant roles on screen, I'm always really terrified at first, and always have major imposter syndrome, and just think I'm going to get fired at any moment. But then actually, that always makes me work even harder. Because I just don't want to mess it up. So I think with Rebecca, I went through the process of doing as much of a detailed backstory as I possibly could for myself. It just makes me feel more confident attacking like a character like that. Playlist helped a lot. I used that playlist a lot on set because there were some big emotional scenes to get into. And I think I just went through the script. I went through the script. It was a really great process anyway, because Mike was really open to collaboration. The directors we had were really incredible, and we always got to have like a sit down with them before we started filming a new episode. And so it was quite nice, and obviously working with Oliver and the other actors, like we had time to kind of talk to each other about our relationships and dynamics and stuff, and so that always helped a lot. So just made sure that we were all on the same page. It was, I think, playing the role of Rebecca, it wasn't just, I didn't sit down for 2 days and go, okay, I got it. It was, it was a process of, weeks. I think even filming maybe my first episode compared to filming, say, like episode 7, I was in a completely different headspace. I was so much more confident. I knew exactly who she was by, the later episodes.
Mm.
Whereas the earlier episodes, even just within myself, I was like, oh my God,
Yes.
terrified. But, thankfully, I think it's funny because I think it worked for the character almost, because when she's introduced to the viewers on screen, she's meant to be quite nervous because she's starting a new job. So it was perfect.
Yeah, very method.
Yeah, great method.
Yeah, and you said then that it was very much a collaborative effort, and I suppose a role like that would really have to be because Rebecca and Peter, their stories are so intertwined with each other.
Mm.
Was it, what was it like for you and Oliver trying to flesh out and scope out these characters together?
Man, it was a lot of work, but it was really enjoyable work. And like Ollie was such a pleasure to work with, really easy to get on with. Um, Always up for rehearsing or going through scenes that didn't quite make sense to us and just working through it. So actually it just made like my job so much easier. Hopefully it made his job easier as well. Because yeah, we kind of, I think we spoke quite early on and figured out that yeah, if we don't get this relationship in a really like authentic and believable place, nobody's going to buy into it. And I
Mm.
think as a viewer, especially with romantic relationships, yeah, and I know myself. I mean, I watch so much TV and film, right? And I know that whenever I watch something and I don't quite believe the dynamics or the relationship between two people, I check out because I'm not going to invest in their relationship anymore because I don't believe it. So yeah, we were on the same page right from the beginning and did a lot of work together actually on Rebecca and Peter.
Their story absolutely crushed me. It absolutely fucking killed me, let me just say. And one of my favorite moments of Rebecca's was it's when she realizes what's happened to her.
Mm,
She's by the lake, and it's the guttural screams. It broke my heart. And then for you in a moment like that, I don't know anything about being on a set, okay? I don't know nothing about filming.
yeah.
But I was sitting there just like crying, like, oh Jesus, but for you, you're on set. How many takes do you get at that, or how do you stay in the
Mm.
zone between it? Because it's very emotionally charged.
Yeah, that was quite tough actually, but in a weird way, quite cathartic. Because you got to channel something at the end of the day to scream about. Otherwise, you're just screaming and there's no emotion behind it. And I think that job taught me so much. Actually, I learned so much, and I think as actors, everyone's got a different process. Everyone's got completely different methods to what works for them, and I just think I've found what works for me. And on set, it was tough because screaming, you don't have many takes before your voice gives out. And thankfully, I was working with brilliant directors on that episode. And I think I just said, I've got maybe 3 takes. At this, I don't think I can, I just can't do any more. And we're shooting in Vancouver in the middle of winter. I'm in my Rebecca Jessel dress with my shoulders out. It's freezing cold. We're outside at an actual lake. I'm standing in the bushes. um, with a whole like the entire crew and some of the cast watching. And I think I just had to it was quite easy to get into the zone because actually I was quite removed from what's the word, from the rest of the crew. Like normally the crew, there could be a camera right here and you've got to emote,
Yeah.
but actually they were on the other side of the lake, and so I just let loose. And I think at that time I literally just thought about how horrifying it would be, to realize what had happened and that there was nothing you could do to reverse it. And I genuinely just thought, oh, that is absolutely just horrifying, and how sad that would be for Rebecca, like now stuck in this place because she fell in love with this man. So I just let it all out. And hopefully, yeah, it did what it was meant to do.
It's definitely one of the standout scenes that, like you said, it's the moment where I was like, oh, fuck that guy. You know what I mean? You completely turn because obviously we knew kind of what his angle was, or we had a
Yeah,
feeling of what his angle was, but that was the exact moment that you're kind of realizing with her that that's it, it's final for her. Um,
that's what I mean. They're going back. Yeah.
it was so harsh.
Mm-hmm.
But you mentioned being on set, and I know sometimes a lot of it is like sound stages, or a lot of it's on location.
Mm-hmm.
So the house then itself, was that a soundstage?
Yes, yeah. That was, yeah. It was amazing. It was huge. So usually what it was, the interior was a soundstage. I'm trying to remember the exterior now. I feel like the exterior was just CGI.
Yeah,
I feel like we were just acting against a massive green screen or something. I'm trying to remember now. Exterior was on, it was on location somewhere, and it was right by the lake. But they built, what had they done? They'd like made a lake. It was mental, yeah. So that lake that most of the characters end up in,
yeah.
um, was made by the production team because it was actually heated. so that it wouldn't all get hypothermia. So they would have built that and had to put, I don't know how they do it, heaters in to warm up the water every time someone needed to get thrown in there.
Well, shit, that doesn't sound so bad if it was heated. I was feeling bad for you, like
It wasn't, no, I know, right? I know. It was no, it wasn't bad. I must say, I remember dreading, God, dreading the scene. I think there's a scene. Yeah, there's a scene where I walk into the lake and it's me, it's you, it's us, and I dip my head underneath. And obviously you see that in the schedule coming up, and I thought, oh my God, like I don't deal well with the cold. I just don't function well. I'm a summer baby through and through. And we're in Vancouver and it's like we're like January or something, and it's just bitter, so bitterly cold outside. But the whole team were incredible. So what they did was they made these specific like bespoke what's the word, wetsuits for us to wear underneath our costumes to try and keep us as warm as possible. And actually, funnily enough, walking into the lake was really was really nice and warm because the water was so much. I mean, it's not like a jacuzzi warm. It's a lukewarm, but because it was so cold outside, it felt so lovely.
a nice break.
It was more when you then had to get out and wait, and you were soaking wet and wait around in between for the next shot. That's what was rough because you were just wet in the freezing cold.
That sounds great. That just sounds lovely. You touched on the it's you, it's me, it's us. And that it actually took two watches for me to kind of grasp what was going on with it.
Mm.
This idea of you could say it's non-linear storytelling, I guess, but the idea of like the body jumping.
Mm-mm-mm.
How do you come at that? Because then it's not necessarily just playing your character. There's all these other elements at work.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it exactly. I think quite early on, we had to like establish what the rules were, of this whole what did we used to call it? Like not dream jumping, but essentially when someone kind of inhabits, your body, you're in a memory. There's a memory jumping. You're put in a memory somewhere. And so we had to kind of establish what the rules were with that because it does get quite confusing.
Yeah.
I think I didn't have too much to do with that. It was little Miles that had to do quite a lot of Peter Quint mimicking, which he was so good at. But yeah, I think because it's when you're filming, everything's broken down and you're doing it piece by piece, scene by scene. It's much more manageable. I think when you're reading the entire script, it's quite daunting because you're like, oh God, where am I? What memory is this again? And who? But at the time, because you're filming it like piece by piece, block by block, and I think I should have all kind of done the work already. You kind of go through your script and map out where you are, where you've just come from, and where you're going. I think that's a really kind of basic tool for any actor, but it just really helps ground you in what your emotion should be at that particular time.
Mm. And I think you were right what you said about Rebecca. I don't think there was too much of that with her. There was that one scene where Peter kind of inhabits her and she's trying to walk off the estate or something.
Yes, yeah.
It out. I don't think there's too many with her.
Yeah.
But like there is so many different aspects to her that what was your kind of moment of realization of, okay, I get her as a woman. I get her as a character.
Yeah, no, because at first I didn't. I'll be honest. I just thought, oh God, Rebecca, like just like tell him to fuck off. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the issue? And I think there was a scene that we filmed. It was quite funny. It was my memory is so longer. I want to say ep 3. And they are having an argument, and like I think it's like the scene beforehand was everyone's in the kitchen. Owen's doing his making his batter, making a cake, and everyone's tasting the batter. Peter's getting like really irritated, and we don't really know why, right? And then the next scene is Rebecca and Peter in the bedroom, and he's basically just calling her a whore because she, tasted Owen's cake batter off of his spoon, and she's like, I can't understand why. So I remember when we were filming that, like naturally, as Tahirah, I was like getting quite angry, angry with him, and like what the fuck, like really, and quite aggressive. And the director was like, I think you need to be like a lot softer, a lot softer, and a bit more, intimidated. And that's not naturally who I am in that type of situation. I just go, what is your problem? Like, you idiot.
Yeah.
And so I had to keep on remembering, okay, Rebecca is not me, I'm not Rebecca. And this is how Rebecca would react. And why is that? And why is it that I would react like that? And you kind of have to do a deep dive on it's true though, on your upbringing and all this kind of stuff. And so I remember thinking, okay, going back to the backstory that you write for yourself, who was she brought up by? How was she brought up? Where did she grow up? And so on and so on and so forth. And this is why this character reacts like this. She needs this. She thinks, she needs this man. And just because I've never felt like that particularly, this is a lot of people's experiences, for whatever reason. And I think once I stopped kind of butting heads with, why does she do these things? She's so weak and so fragile. And actually started understanding why she acted like that and what it was she thought she really needed in Peter. It made a lot of sense. And again, the viewer will never know any of the backstory that I did or came up with, with regards to like her and her father's relationship. But that informed a lot of how much care I had for her and how much I understood her. And I think that, maybe that came, I'd say probably ep 4, because you get to see, it is so heartbreaking because you get to see them, not ep 4, sorry, ep 5, God, I'm like getting confused. You get to see how they fell in love, and actually, as much as Peter was toxic and probably quite unhealthy for her, he did really love her, and especially, and of course he's broken as well, searching for something within her. So I think sometimes when you have two people that are, I guess, like relying on each other for something that they're lacking without finding those things on their own, I don't know how well it's ever going to go. And I think that's what I have to get to and go, okay, but that's what it is. And that's why she's allowing certain behaviors from Peter.
I think that's kind of how I viewed them as well. And it's so interesting that you say like, oh, that the viewers won't know the backstory that you created. Because I feel like with characters like that, at least I do, because I am a fanatic about film and TV. If the character that I'm drawn to, I will be like, okay, like small things that they would say or do will set off a little red flag or an alarm. I'm like, okay, so what I think happened here is blah, blah, blah. 10 years ago, she experienced.
Yeah.
And I do think, I definitely agree with what you said about that relationship. Not necessarily being mutually toxic, but that they both kind of used each other as a crutch, which is
for
why
sure.
it just kind of crumpled in.
Yeah, definitely.
But it is such a serious topic and such a serious relationship. Really struck a chord with so many people. What do you hope people take away from Rebecca's character?
Oh, I think I think I said this at the time as well. When I was asked that question, that it's doesn't matter how, and that's the thing I felt really what is the word, guilty for thinking that she was just weak, weak at the beginning, when we started filming and when I kind of saw the character. And actually, she's not fragile. She's very strong minded, very determined, very intelligent woman. And actually, you can still be all of those things, and and still kind of get taken advantage of, or abused, or coerced. And I think that's that's the thing. It's nothing to do with being weak. It's just about, there's obviously a vulnerability within you that, man, let's face it, some people are really good at finding and poking in order to get you to do what they want, and it doesn't mean you're weak at all. And actually, in the end, I was so happy that Rebecca, like, really found her strength, to essentially sacrifice herself for Flora. And so I think, yeah, what I want at the time, what I wanted people to take away from watching Rebecca was that it doesn't, being in an abusive or unhealthy relationship doesn't mean that you're, a weak-minded person at all. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. And actually, the vast majority of the time, if not all the time, it's going to be the other person that is a complete idiot and actually nothing to do with you.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail so perfectly there, because with like her introduction into the show, she is so strong-willed and strong-minded, and she knows who she is. So like you said, like when it was initially starting, there was that part to me that was like, girl, just get the fuck out. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Watch it progress in real time. It shows how easy it could happen.
Yeah.
But I did love her ending, that she stopped it in its tracks from hurting anybody else in Flora, and I thought that was gorgeous.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something, and that's essentially who she is at her core. That's what I think.
I have taken up enough of your time. If are you a Halloween person? I probably should have asked. Are you big into horror and Halloween?
I mean, it's so funny. I am a massive horror fan, like huge horror fan. Always have been since I was a kid.
Hmm.
But I'm not. But weirdly enough, it's funny, isn't it? Halloween, I'm not massively into.
Do you know
I
what I
will.
think it is?
Yeah. Well,
I don't think it's as big here as it is in the States.
it's not at all. It's not at all yet. We're going the same way. We're getting there. But no, Halloween isn't. I mean, a lot of holidays aren't as big here as they are in the States. But I always enjoyed, kind of like a Halloween party and getting dressed up, because I'm an all or nothing kind of girl. I'm like, either it's I can't be asked, I can't be bothered, I'm not, or I'm full in, full costume.
That's me. That is me to a T. I'm just asking because I have some Halloween themed questions, because this is a kind of
Cool.
horror Halloween themed series that I'm doing. So I'd love to know, what is your absolute favorite memory from any year at Halloween that you've had?
I don't know if I can say them out loud.
They're that good.
I mean, I think there's two that spring to mind. Was when I was like a young teenager, and Halloween was not even, it was even less back then, right? Which was nothing at all. And I think a group of friends, a friend said, "Oh, I'm having a party, having a Halloween party, but we're gonna go trick or treating beforehand." This is like, we're like 14 years old in like South London. It's just, it was so ridiculous. It was so much fun though, I remember. And I didn't dress up as anything spooky. Me and my friend went as Tia and Tamara from a show called Sister Sister. It was like the most laziest,
I love
laziest.
Sister.
Yeah. It was like the most laziest Halloween costume ever. Because it's like, we kind of look alike. Let's just do our hair the same and wear the same clothes. But I do remember that was a lot of fun, and that party was very fun. But and then I think another memory is when I went out with one of my friends, and we were like, we're gonna do Halloween, and she was this what's it called again? Like Day of the Dead. So she done a, I think her friend did an amazing like face paint on her, and she was like a corpse bride type thing, and I was like a vampire.
Do you have the fangs and all?
Had the fangs and everything. And it took me so long to get them on. Like, you get the glue and you stick them on, and oh, it's great. But I just remember that being such a great Halloween, and we went to quite a few Halloween parties, and it was great because one of my pet peeves about going to costume parties is when you go to a costume party and other people don't make any effort. Like it really pisses me off. Just think, don't come then. And because we'd all make an effort, and like every single other person had really made such a big effort. It was so much fun. Oh yeah, it was great. It was good.
I remember I've only been to a few, not many, but like you said, in my teen years,
Mm,
Halloween, you're lucky if Tesco had anything Halloween related.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
nobody cared. And it's the
yeah.
same thing. We'd go to a Halloween party
Mm,
and it'd be like someone with one blood smear on their cheek.
yeah,
They're like,
yeah, yeah.
tell them like a dead school teacher or something stupid. That always annoyed me as well. Given the fact, you're an actress, obviously it's what you do.
Mm.
What's, in your opinion, the best performance that you've seen in a horror?
Oh man, that is so hard.
Shit question. Yeah.
That is so difficult. Geez, I should have really prepared for this question. Well, okay, I'm just gonna go for one of my favorite horror films. So I don't know that it's necessarily particularly Halloween, specific related, but it's a horror film and it's one of my faves. And I think this is a great performance. And it's Rosemary's Baby, but the original, like the original from like I want to say 70s, I think it is. Man, it's so good. It's really good because my type of horror films are films that I'm more freaked out by stuff that it could actually happen.
Yeah.
So paranormal stuff, yeah, it's a nice like jump scares. Ooh. But actually, films that like even like 28 Days Later, one of my absolute all-time favorite, just like films in general, and then horror movies. I think it really scared the shit out of me at the time because it's something that could actually happen. It's a virus that got out and spread around the world, right? You know what I mean? And infected people. Like that happens, right?
Yeah. We know all too well.
Right? And I think, and like with Rosemary's Baby, it's not obviously depending on what you believe, but I think because it was the subject matter of, I don't know, do you know the movie?
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah.
The subject matter is, creating the next, I don't know, like Antichrist or whatever. But actually, the way that it was performed was so naturalistic, it would make you question
Yeah.
a lot of people's intentions. You know what I mean? I think I remember that really sticking with me. And I think I quite enjoy psychological horrors more than pure jump scares, which is why I loved Mike Flanagan's work so much because he does both so well, and he always grounds horror in reality.
Mm.
I personally think it's the best way to do horror.
I'm 1000% with you on that. And I'm someone who I don't mind a bit of anything. I love gore, I love jump scares, but I gravitate towards the psychological as well,
Yeah.
which is why Bly Manor, Hill
Mm,
House, Midnight
yeah.
Mass, all of them, and especially in Bly Manor as well, it's the small little moments of like, and I only noticed it upon the second or third rewatching that there's scenes where there's stuff in the background, there's stuff going
Yeah.
on. I never noticed it.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? I was like, okay. If you loved Rosemary's Baby, you have to watch Apartment 7A. Have you seen?
I've heard of that. Ooh, no, I don't think I have seen that actually. Apartment
So
7A.
it's the
Okay.
prequel. It's the prequel, yeah. It comes first before Rosemary's Baby, and it just came out like this year.
Oh, did it? Okay, interesting. All
It's
right, I'll have to
really good.
give that a watch. Yeah, a lot of. Oh, sorry, quickly. Carrie. Carrie is a really, really good, great movie, and Sissy Spacek is, yeah, kind of phenomenal in that.
The original. Yeah.
The original, yeah, yeah, the original, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just had to clarify. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I love doing this style of video. I love sitting down and hearing the creative process and, like the fun stories, like the wetsuits under the costumes,
Yeah,
because that's the side of things that viewers don't get to hear about.
yeah,
Me, you know?
no, of course, yeah, 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 no, and it all. There's so many things, so many elements that go into creating, what you see on screen, that is unseen, and all of those people deserve, a shout out.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, a huge thank you so much. I really do appreciate you sitting down and taking
No
time out of
worries.
the day to
All
reminisce
good.
and talk all things horror. Thanks a million again.
No worries. Take care.
And that is it for my interview with Tahirah, you guys. Again, massive thank you to her for sitting and talking. There's just something so fascinating about hearing somebody, recall like where they were mentally to get into the mind space of characters, what their favorite moments were, like little tidbits like that. Because especially with shows like this, with projects like this, like Bly Manor has become an absolute cult classic. It is monumental, especially in terms of like streaming. I think it's one of the biggest shows that Netflix like ever put out in terms of popularity. And I think I mentioned it in the interview, but I saw it on Twitter recently that it was, I think we just hit like the 4-year release date mark of Bly Manor. And what struck me is I was going through the replies to this tweet that I saw that was like, oh, like happy, anniversary to Bly Manor. Those characters in that universe is so loved. Like all of the replies were people being like, oh man, like it's one of the best TV shows I ever saw. Thank you for reminding me to rewatch, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, a huge thank you to Tahirah for sitting and talking and sharing pieces of herself, because I really appreciate it and I hope you guys appreciated it too. I will link all of Tahirah's socials in the description down below, so if you want to find her on Insta or anywhere else that she is social on, I will have the links down below if you want to go give her a follow if you don't already. All of my links are also down below if you want to find me elsewhere. Thank you so much for watching and I will talk to you all soon.